Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to break down the frameworks that literally turn a simple idea into a real, tangible product. So, it all really starts with this one big question. How does an idea actually become something you can use? Well, the frameworks we're about to explore are basically the different roadmaps that teams use to make that journey happen. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the big picture map that pretty much every project uses. Then we'll check out two very different paths you can take on that map, the old school waterfall and the super adaptive agile. We'll also see how you can mix and match them. And then we'll wrap it all up by focusing on the BA's crucial role as the navigator for the whole trip. Okay, first things first. Before we can even think about picking a path, we need to understand the map itself. And in the world of software, that universal map has a name: the Software Development Lifecycle, or, as you'll always hear it, the SDLC. Now, this is probably the most important thing to get right today. The SDLC is not a methodology you choose, like waterfall or agile. Not at all. Think of it as the fundamental blueprint for any software project. It's the set of non-negotiable stages that every single idea has to pass through to become a real product. So yeah, every single project follows this life cycle. It always starts with planning. That's where you figure out the what and the why. From there, you move into design, which is all about architecting how it's going to work. Then you've got the actual development, the coding. After that, of course, you have to test it like crazy, then deploy it so people can use it. And finally, there's ongoing maintenance to keep everything running smoothly. These 6 stages, they're universal. So why does this map matter so much to a business analyst? Well, because it shows you exactly where you can make the biggest splash. I mean, sure, a BA is involved all the way through, but your heaviest, most critical work happens right at the start, in those planning and design phases. That's where you set the course for the entire journey. All right, so we've got our map. Let's look at the first major route you can take. This is the traditional, straight-line, predictable journey, the waterfall model. Just think of a literal waterfall. It's a series of steps, and the water only flows one way, down. You have to finish one entire phase before the next one can even begin. All the planning has to be done, signed off, and locked in before you can start designing. And all the design has to be perfect before a single line of code gets written. This really rigid structure means you need perfect documentation up front, because trying to change something later on, it's not just hard, it can be unbelievably expensive. So for a BA, this means the pressure's on, and it's on right at the start. Your job is to capture every single requirement in painstaking detail before the project really kicks off. That document you create, it becomes the project's Bible. It's the single source of truth that everyone, designers, developers, testers, will follow to the letter. No pressure, right? But what if you can't possibly know everything from day one? What if the whole point is to learn and adapt as you go? Well, that brings us to a totally different way of traveling, the agile path, the adaptive journey. Right, so unlike waterfall's one giant, long journey, Agile breaks the whole project down into lots of small trips. We call these sprints. Each sprint is like a mini project in itself. It goes through all the SDLC phases, but on a much smaller scale. And at the end, it delivers a little piece of a working product. The whole idea is to collaborate, get feedback, and adapt your plan constantly. A really key activity for BAs in the Agile world is something called backlog grooming, or sometimes backlog refinement. This is basically the constant care and feeding of your requirements list, the backlog. You're always in there reviewing items, adding details, and reprioritizing things to make sure the team has a crystal clear set of tasks ready for the next sprint. It's less about creating one perfect document and more about tending to a living, evolving list. So, in an Agile world, the BA role is a complete 180 from waterfall. That huge upfront effort just vanishes. Instead, your job becomes a continuous day-in, day-out collaboration. You're right there in the trenches with the team, writing user stories, clarifying requirements on the fly, and helping to steer the ship one sprint at a time. Let's just put them side by side for a second, because this really makes it clear. Waterfall's pacing, it's a straight line, one phase after another. Agile's, it's cyclical, working in these iterative loops. Documentation in Waterfall is massive and all up front. In Agile, it's lighter and you do it as you go. But here's the real kicker: how they handle change. Waterfall fights it. Agile, on the other hand, fully expects it, it even welcomes it. So you have the super predictable path and the super flexible one. But what if you need a bit of both? That brings us to what's probably the most common reality in organizations today, the hybrid middle ground. Is it the best of both worlds? Maybe. In a hybrid model, you might do some big waterfall-style planning at the beginning to get your budget and approval sorted, but then you actually execute the project using agile sprints. For a BA, this means one thing above all: versatility is your superpower. You've got to be able to write that formal, detailed documentation when they ask for it, but then immediately pivot and jump into a fast-paced, collaborative sprint. You really become the bridge between that rigid structure and that flexible execution. So, with all these different maps and routes, what does it all mean for you? It means the business analyst isn't just an analyst anymore. You're the project's navigator, guiding the team on its journey. It really all boils down to this. In a waterfall project, your focus is on getting those perfect, detailed requirements up front, and your key skill is comprehensive documentation. In Agile, your focus shifts to continuous refinement, and your key skills become collaboration and adaptability. And in that hybrid world, you're the bridge, which makes versatility your single greatest asset. Honestly, a modern BA needs to be fluent in all three. So the next time you're kicking off a project, don't just ask, "What are we building?" Ask, "Which path are we taking to get there?" Because choosing the right framework, that isn't just some boring process decision. It's probably the most critical step you'll take towards success. And knowing which path to choose, that's what separates a good business analyst from a truly great one. You can read more about this and a lot more besides in The Essential Business Analyst, Mastering Business Analysis in the AI Age. You'll find a link in the description. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, it would be awesome if you hit that like button and subscribe for more.